Glad to have everybody on tonight, man. It's crazy times with election time going on and COVID and everything. So, man, it is definitely a challenge right now. So, for those of you guys may not know me, my name is Deontay Copeland. I'm CEO Executive Director of the National High School Basketball Association, and I brought some friends with me. These ladies right beside me. Introduce yourselves.
Hey everyone, my name is Shelby. I'm an intern with NHSBA. It's nice to see everybody.
I'm Sydney. I'm also an intern with the NHSBA. We're excited to have you guys here tonight.
And I am Kennedy Jones. Thanks for everyone who's tuning in tonight.
Well, definitely. We got a special speaker tonight. His name is Richard Ward. He's the Global Footwear Design Director of the Basketball Division for Converse. So definitely glad to have you tonight, Richard.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Yes. And if anybody has any questions, of course, you can text those at the bottom to Sydney. She'll definitely read your questions and get you the questions that you might ask to Richard. And also, if you're not on our social media pages, like our pages, Facebook at the NHSBA, well, the National High School Basketball Association, Twitter, the NHSBA, Instagram, NHSBA 06, and YouTube, NHSBA, the NHSBA. So, all right. So, Richard, my first question for you, man, can you explain kind of your role with Converse, kind of like what you do on a daily basis, kind of what your job entails, is what your role at a Converse?
Yeah, so basically, my role is basically the design side. So it's footwear design. We basically build the shoe. We design the shoe. We build the shoe with the help of our engineering and development teams. We set creative direction for the season as well. That's usually the starting point. Then we look into a problem. So we're looking to to try and solve a problem. For example, in basketball, we're looking to build a better cutting shoe that cuts better on the court. And so we'll use that as a focal point. We start and then explore that through sketches. We start to refine those sketches and move into prototyping. And then we actually hand that over then to our factory partners in China and Vietnam. And we actually start to then see the product come to life. So the role basically entails the product creation, of the basketball product for Converse. So.
Awesome. So COVID has, done a lot of things to every aspect of our lives. So I'm going to ask this in two parts. I want to know what a typical day at your job looks like pre-COVID, and then now since COVID's happened, how has that affected your job?
So lots of meetings and still lots of meetings. That's a really good question. So my kind of pre-COVID, it was, we were obviously in the office, worked very closely with the team. We all sit very much in the same area. We can get to each other in less than 10 seconds, shout over the shelves and stuff. So so we work together very closely in the office. There would be not a lot, but quite a few meetings, alignment meetings, making sure that we were on track with certain things. There's a lot of timelines that go into it. So from a process point of view, making sure that we're hitting all our targets. We also do quite a few reviews, so check-ins every week with more senior leadership to show where we are with the projects. So it was a good space to be in, and to have that interaction. It's really important. So what COVID has done is basically put people everywhere, but not in the same room. So at the beginning, it was quite hard to deal with, in terms of making these decisions digitally and through images and pictures instead of actually having products in hand. That's a huge part of our working process, is that you have a physical sample in your hand that you're actually able to look at and see the details. And that was the one thing that was the hardest to try and achieve. So we had to think a little bit outside the box. We've done a lot of work with 3D modeling. So we're actually trying to 3D model the shoes now. and that allows us to give us a 360 and then 180 view of the shoe with textures and materials, but still it's not like the real thing. So we're kind of doing the best we can. And of course, the other thing that we lost was actually we traveled to our factories in China and Vietnam. So we actually do quite a lot of travel to those places. And, you know, we have a very good relationship with our factories. And I always say that 2 weeks in the factory is like 2 months in the office. You know, you can just get so much done in that period of time. The communication is far easier. The sample turnaround is much faster. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so I have a question for you. I want to know, what is your favorite thing about design? What actually drew you to be a designer?
Yeah, another fantastic question. Yeah, I think the simplest one to that is actually problem solving. So I love, like, that is the end goal. It's you know, how do I, get a better lacing system? How do I make this more comfortable? How do I make this look better? How do I make more people want to have this object? That's really what I love, and trying to actually find out those problems and try and solve them. And then kind of a little bit like further back for me is I kind of fell in love with creativity. It was through my grandfather. He was like an engineer, and yeah, he had a fruit. I mean, I don't know, because I'm English, so I'm not sure if you know, but we used to have these, like, they were called fruit and veg shops. It was basically like a corner shop where they used to sell like fresh fruit and vegetables, like back in the 50s and 60s. And it was, very, because I came from a very small, like, rural town in England. So, not so many people. And yeah, he used to have a shed in the back, a big kind of brick shed. And in the back, they used to have the old boxes for the fruit and vegetables. And they were made of very thin wood. And you could break them down. And I used to end up, like, with him making, like, planes and trains and cars and stuff like that when I was like 5 and 6 years old. And yeah, and that's where it kind of started from. And then I learned the kind of the drawing side of it later on. But it was like that ability to kind of, like, want to make things, and again, like, try and solve a problem. So cool.
Well, definitely, man. Before I get to, I guess, the questions for the students, and again, like I said, with the students, any questions you have, like I said, go ahead and send those to Sydney. And, well, actually, Sydney, do we have any questions so far?
We do. We have one from Kendra, if they want to go ahead and ask their question.
What kind of skills do you need to be an effective designer? And do you have any, like, specific kind of education you went through in order to become one?
Yeah, I think I'll tell you, the first thing is passion. Passion is the first thing you can start with. And that doesn't, you don't need to go to a university for that. And then the drive to actually to get to the end of it. And I think that's one thing that I've really learned, is that if you have that, you can pretty much do anything. And yeah, I actually went to university, so to college, and studied. I actually studied car design, which is a little bit more unusual. It's very specific. It's a very competitive industry because there are very few jobs, but, like, the people in the industry are very, very talented. And yeah, so basically, I did my, high school, and then we have it's called A levels in the UK, where it's kind of after high school and then just before you go on to college. And I basically focused on subjects that I knew were associated with design. So I studied, obviously, design was one of them, which was more on the graphic side to start with. And then I did a kind of business economics, just to kind of understand a little bit more about, you know, how the industry would work as well. And then the other one was I think it was, oh, I forgot now. It's been so long, but it was associated, you know, with the industry. And then when I went to university, that was when I really, you know, learned the art really of design. And I think what university teaches you, it teaches you the fundamentals of creation. So they teach you the process, you know, like starting with, you know, a problem, then you go on to try and solve that problem, and you start to ideate and sketch that, and then, you know, getting to an end goal. And through the education, you do many projects, and you have like tutoring as well. But the biggest thing is then the internship, and that was where I learned the most out of everything. And I would say that my internship, my third year of college, university, was the pivotal moment in my entire career, because that basically got me the job outside of university, and then it kind of had a knock-on effect from there. Yeah, so basically it's you know, if you're really interested in design and the arts, just try and sketch as much as you can. Like, get a notepad, just doodle, sketch. Find like an art school where you can potentially do some like still life drawing. That really helps, because within design you need to kind of have the understanding of three-dimensional form. So you need to be able to kind of imagine, you know, what an object looks like in 3D, and then put that onto the paper. So there's like any art schools that you can take like early on is a great step. But you know, fundamentally, if you just have the passion and the drive to get there, you'll achieve it. So
Awesome. I really like that you talked about having passion. I think that's super important for any job. We do have a couple more questions. Our next question comes from Josiah. So if you want to ask your question.
Okay, hi. Well, I have two questions. The first one is, how many years have you been like dealing with the business and like doing design and stuff like that?
okay, now then I have to work this one out. So I think it's about 13 years now. And that's from, I'm counting my very first job in footwear. So that was 2007. And that was an internship that I did at Puma in London. So yeah, and that was when I pretty much started in footwear. Yeah, so I've been in the industry for 13, 14 years. And yeah, sorry, what was the second question?
My second question is, what motivates you to like come up with different designs?
Oh, good question. Yeah. What motivates me? I think when you start to progress through your career, and you start to like, you know, you learn the fundamentals, and you kind of start to get your own kind of feel and style. And so I think, you know, my personal taste is a little bit more minimal. It's a bit more classic and contemporary. You know, if you were to kind of like think, you know, a product design is like something like, you know, the way Apple build products, you know, that kind of the storytelling, the simplicity. So that's kind of like how my personal taste and drive is and how I would start to think about a project. But the interesting thing about the design industry is that I can't necessarily design products just for me. It's like I'm designing for other consumers. So we usually have like a specific brief, which is created by our product counterparts. So we have, it's basically like, we call it the triad group. So it's like a 3-team group that work very closely together on the product side. And that's, so it would be design, development, which is the engineering side. And then the product team, which basically work on the consumer insights, pricing, range architecture, you know, how many, the volume of the shoe, where we're going to sell the shoe, is it going to be in Foot Locker, those kind of things. So we have a lot of kind of bubbles that sit around on this brief. And then, you know, again, we will always be focusing on what is the problem we're solving for from a performance point of view. So that's also another big factor. Yeah.
Awesome. Deontay, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I was going to ask you, has COVID-19 changed, I guess, the way you guys kind of approach designs? Because I know, like I said, things are different when everything's coming on, but has the process of how you guys make designs or how you approach designs changed anything? Has COVID made you guys pivot a little bit?
Actually, no, not really. I mean, from a process and a working point of view, you know, we're obviously working remotely, so the beginning part of the process we can do pretty easily from home, like the sketch phase, like the ideation phase. The making part is a little bit different, because what we actually do is in Boston we have 2 offices for Converse. One is our main headquarters, which is where we have everybody from marketing to finance, development, everything. And then we actually have a separate, smaller like studio, which is we call it's our innovation space, and that actually has a lot of it's basically a miniature factory where we can actually go and build prototypes and first round samples. So we're actually finding that we were able to go and utilize that space more because there's fewer people, obviously with, you know, COVID guidelines in place. But yeah, we actually start to build more what we're calling like 3D sketches. So samples that we can stitch together ourselves, pin together, and kind of create stuff that way. From an actual design point of view, I think we know COVID is here, and but we're designing currently for 22. So we're designing for 2022 right now, and we're actually, you know, we have samples that are starting to be built. So, you know, we're seeing, you know, that by then things will be much better, and, you know, won't have impacted. We think that to be honest, I mean, things have got even in the sneaker industry. The sneaker industry has actually like risen since COVID came in, because, you know, I feel more people, you know, they want something to look forward to. They want something to kind of like make them feel, you know, happy, and you know, a sneaker is quite a big thing. So I think, you know, we're seeing a rise in people buying sneakers and performance shoes. So even though, you know, we're on, you know, under these situations.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that, you know, people would be buying sneakers when people are, you know, concerned about how much money they're spending. That's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Since we have 10 minutes left, Sydney, I'm going to give you my time so the students can ask their questions.
Okay, perfect. We have another question from Mariah, so you can go ahead and ask your question.
So my question was, what advice would you give someone that's new coming in, like about the company or whatever?
Do you mean to get into the industry, or?
Yes, like what advice would you give them, like their first time coming in out of like college or whatever?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Reach out to, you know, there's platforms out there like LinkedIn is a really good one. You know, reach out to people, just, you know, ask for advice, ask for them to, you know, give you, you know, portfolio reviews. So a portfolio is probably one of the biggest things a designer will actually have and use. It's basically, it can be a folder, a book. In fact, yeah. So my portfolio is usually in like a book format, and this one is actually based on work I did at Adidas. So yeah, it basically will have stuff like this. So it will show the actual design process of different projects that I've got. And what it does is it kind of like helps the company understand, like, oh, this is how you think, this is your thought process. And so I think, you know, start with building a portfolio of work that you're really proud of, that actually goes towards solving a problem, and then reach out to people and ask for help. Instagram is also very good. Like, you can find a lot of designers on Instagram now, and again on LinkedIn, and just reach out to recruiters and the people in the industry. They'll always be help, and don't be put off if people don't reply back. Just go to somebody else and just keep going until you finally get somebody who will answer you. And there always is. I've done it myself when in the early days, so I know it works.
Great. Speaking of portfolios, we have a question about that from Miss Good. If you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. Is it beneficial to already have your portfolio, like when you get out of college, to work for Converse?
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like, for a designer, it's like our CV. Everybody kind of in the business world will have a CV that has all of their, but for us, as designers, our biggest selling point is our portfolio. So, having that when you come out of college, and you can even build one, if you're at high school or anywhere. I think it's just good to even start early. And what that's going to do, because you'll always be asked by like the recruitment person or the hiring manager, like, can we see some of your work? So normally you'll probably have a phone call first, and then you will send what's called like a teaser portfolio. Like, I don't send everything. I just send a couple of like kind of teasers to kind of make them like interested and kind of want to then talk to me in person. Because the other thing that's really important is actually, speaking to somebody in person about your own work, because I think you can just drive much more passion, and people can see your body language, and it really helps you, sell, your ideas and designs.
Awesome. I have a question myself for you. What's the most rewarding part of your job?
I think it's doing something, like actually getting paid for something that is like a hobby. I do really enjoy my job. I think that's the most rewarding thing. I think to be able to, and this doesn't happen all the time, but to be able to wake up on a Monday morning and want to go to work rather than kind of having to go to work is a pretty amazing thing to have. And like that was one of my original kind of goals. I don't know, I must have been some weird, strange kid, but at like 14, 15, I did say, like, I want to make sure that I work and do something that, I really enjoy doing and can put, all of that effort in. And what it does when you work on something that you love, and you work in an industry that you love, you tend to like put so much more into it. And I mean, I can't count the late nights I've done and weekends and things like that, just because, you have that energy and the flow. So.
Great. Deontay, we just have a few minutes left. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think we're good. I mean, definitely me and Richard, we talk on a regular basis, man. Thank you for definitely talking to everybody. I think it's something we definitely need to know as far as design. We always talk about, clothing design and shoe design. I think it's definitely interesting for the kids, something to learn, because we buy the shoes, we buy the clothes, but how do you make them? Who makes them? What's the process of making them? I think that's something we definitely want to get out to everybody, let them see, because a lot of folks have been introduced to the industry. They know about it, but they don't know the how and the what and the when and where and the why. So thank you for kind of explaining that to everybody, in the process of kind of how you got there, and kind of, if they want to get there, kind of that process as well. So we definitely appreciate you coming out to talk to everyone. So does anybody else have any questions or anything? Cindy, got any more questions on our end?
No more questions yet.
Okay.
So
well, shoot.
I'll quickly, like, we just have a couple of minutes. So what I'll do is I'm just going to share my screen, and then what I'll leave a link to my website in here as well. So I can't actually share my screen, but what I'll do is I'll leave a link in the chat, and people can just go and have a look. I've got a website. It just has some of my work on there, and that will just give you guys an understanding of the what I've done, and what kind of things we're looking for in the industry. So. There we go. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, well, guys, we got about a few minutes left, so we'll go ahead and wrap up tonight. So, Richard, thank you so much for talking to everyone tonight, and thank you everybody for coming in. So, we will talk to you guys soon on the next Zoom series.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Richard.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.